Welcome back, friends. You're just in time for the Johnny Brew Show.
What's going on, everybody? My name is John Brookhagen, host of the Johnny Brew Show, and welcome to another exciting episode. So exciting that we're going to be talking about everybody's most fervent, exciting, passionate topics there is: economy. All right, the Johnny Brew Show is still looking for a real economist. I don't know, besides the Hoover Institute or a university, how do I get in touch with an economist? Somebody who studied economy. My dream guest is Thomas Sowell, but he lives in Canada, I think, and he's pretty old. But maybe I should try, right? Nonetheless, I need an economist because I want to know stuff first of all, all the obvious questions we have. But also, when you talk about industries such as the woke industrial complex that is selling anti-racist trainings at $650 per hour per person on site, and and more than that even. When all this money, Black Lives Matter got billions of dollars in donations, and we still don't know what they ever did with any of that money. I know some of it went towards Joe Biden's campaign, or I think. But I don't know. But when all this money, even politics, even Republican politicians, when all this money for politics and for wokeism keeps going into this abyss of non-production, right? We're not manufacturing anything. The government itself doesn't create anything. It doesn't create a good that can then be sold, that then can be delivered, that then can be traded, that then can be used to make somebody's life better, right? The government doesn't manufacture things. Anti-racism training doesn't produce things. A lot of things are becoming necessary that doesn't actually produce to the cycle of manufacturing and an economy. Some of these things are sucking money out. Just say you hire an immigrant from Mexico, an undocumented immigrant from Mexico to do your landscaping, right? And then they get the money, and more than half of the money gets sent to their family in Mexico, which, God bless them, they're working hard, but is that what we want as an American for our economy? When money leaves to China or to Mexico, or to an abyss of people who aren't producing something and creating a cycle. What happens to that economy as we continue to infuse other money into the economy? We have the largest jobless rates that we've had in recent history, even before Obama, because we're incentivizing people staying home, or people are genuinely scared. Or whatever the case may be, we have less people in the workforce than usual, which means less products are being made. That means less products are being transferred. But at the same time, we have more money than we've ever had because of all the Biden bucks and all this money. Even Trump had a hand. Many argue, and I kind of agree, but I'm not educated enough to be vehement about it. But the first introduction of federal stimulus by Trump was controversial, but many say that was kind of necessary. Others say not even that was necessary. And I'm in one of those two camps. But then there were subsequent 2 or 3 more stimuluses, of which are still being dispersed. Not to the small businesses, believe me, I know. But someone's still getting that money. I don't know if it's going towards, wind farms, solar farms, anti-racism training, Chinese banks, or, and that's another reason why the real estate prices are going up, because these people were given all this money, but they had to spend it. So some of these large firms that got these large infusions of cash $10 million that they had to spend, they thought, what kind of investment can we make for the company? And they started buying single-family homes, including a lot of Chinese people. Whether you're talking about Chinese and Bill Gates buying farms, or you're talking about the Chinese people, Chinese nationals, and, Chinese Americans, you could buy all the houses you want. But Chinese nationals buying up all the single-family homes, and not only nationals, but corporations, Chinese corporations and American corporations, buying these single-family homes. So they will be able to dictate how much rent is. And as you're going to see in this episode, this is the goal. This is a very sobering episode. It's the details, I understand economics is boring, but this is what's really happening while we're all fighting about mask or no mask, or woke or unwoke, or racism or bullying being the umbrella that, violence falls under. Well, we're fighting all these little battles. The economy is what's going to dictate our future. And this is what's really going on. But when you ask the Biden administration, this is the energy secretary. And I've always said, way before Biden and Trump, I've always said you could always determine a president's success by our foreign relations and the price of gas. Those are usually the two things that you could pretty much sum everything up. Are we, in a war? Are we getting attacked by terrorists? Are we at a time of peace? That's what the president has. And how much is gas? Whether we're producing it ourselves or we have good negotiations going on with OPEC or whoever's supplying our energy, that's what the president does. And protects our borders, enforces the laws outlined by the Constitution, and the laws, the responsibilities outlawed by the Constitution, and the laws as outlined by Congress, who makes the laws as outlined by the Constitution. It's all very simple. We should keep it simple. But then when you ask Biden's chief, number one energy person, about how she's going to take it easy on us and stop having these gas prices go through the roof, wait until you hear her response. It's awe-inspiring, her response. Play tape.
Sturgis, Michigan, it is $2.89 a gallon. I guess that's better than in California. What is the Granholm plan to increase oil production in America?
Oh my God. That is hilarious. Would that I had the magic wand on this. As you know, of course, oil is a global market. It is controlled by a cartel. That cartel is called OPEC, and they made a decision yesterday that they were not going to increase beyond what they were already planning.
It doesn't have to be a global thing. And if OPEC is a cartel, then we don't have to negotiate with them. All right? I don't know what's true and what's not true, but the numbers are staggering. I've heard numbers that underneath the Appalachian Mountains, there's more oil and fossil fuels there, pardon me, than all of Saudi Arabia. I've heard Alaska has about almost half of as much as Saudi Arabia has. I've heard other parts of the country. And what Trump was doing is, first of all, the obvious answers like the Keystone Pipeline, and not having that Russian pipeline built was a big indicator of how we can control gas prices and certain people's ability to manipulate the world and have it under their thumb. Right now, Russia has all of Northern Europe under its thumb, because if they turn off the spigot, Northern Europe is SOL. All right? Just like if OPEC turns off the spigot right now, we're SOL. But we don't have to be. But we closed our Canadian pipeline with the Keystone Pipeline. We stopped letting oil producers go onto national property in the Appalachian Mountains, in Alaska. All of this, the United States government owns the majority of America. And we're not developed. We have plenty of land. Ian Bain had a great episode this week talking about why we have to live 7 feet from each other. I think he even said 7 inches from each other here in Nevada when we got land sprawling for miles in every direction. Got a couple of mountains that we got to concern ourselves with, but other than that, we could build out. Why are we building everything so close to each other? And I encourage you to check it out. Ian is right. But then when you talk about how now the White House is going to shut down another pipeline in the middle of this about to be crisis. And you could hear when Ducey asked this question of the Psaki substitute here, she says it's a lie and then confirms it's true and then says it's a lie and then confirms it's true. All in 90 seconds. Play a tape.
Thank you. The Energy Secretary says about the cost of Americans heating their homes in the winter, it will be more expensive this year than last year. So why is the administration now considering shutting down the Line 5 pipeline from Canada to Michigan?
So, Peter, that is inaccurate. That is not right. So any reporting indicating that some decision has been made, again, is not accurate. But what I will say is, I'll lay this out for you for a little bit here. Where we are is with this is that the Canada has decided to invoke the dispute resolution provisions of the 1977 Transit Pipelines Treaty. We expect that both the U.S. and Canada will engage constructively in those negotiations. In addition to being one of the closest allies, Canada remains a key U.S. partner in energy trade as well as efforts to address climate change and protect the environment. I will also add this too, is that the current Line 5 pipeline is subject to litigation between Enbridge and the state of Michigan. So again, it is inaccurate what you just stated.
What's inaccurate?
But the reporting about us wanting to shut down the Line 5.
I said, is it being studied right now? Is the administration studying the impact of shutting down the Line 5?
Yes, we are.
Then what's inaccurate?
Well, I thought you were saying that we were going to shut it down, but that is not inaccurate. Okay, great. But the Army Corps of Engineers is preparing an environmental impact to look through this.
First of all, I don't think that was a prepared answer. She wasn't reading that, was she? Also, somebody's got to let this young lady know that, like I do it on the show a lot. Like I'll be reading an article and I'll throw in my own commentary and continue reading the article, right? So she's trying to pretend not to be reading a prepared statement, but obviously she is because she's like this when she's reading it. And then she tries to ad-lib and she's like, oh, and let me throw this in, meaning there's another paragraph for me to read. And she's like falling over her own words because she's trying to appear casual while reading a prepared statement. If you're going to do it, you might as well just read the prepared statement. And you could see that, she says it's not true, but it is true. It's not true, then it is true. What you guys need to understand, and why I'm telling you that this is a most alarming episode, is because they're trying to change the world. They're trying to have control of everything. All the conspiracy theories, all the books, all the movies, 1984 and George Orwell and all these crazy tin hat people that are telling you they're trying to take away your money and change to digital currency. The people that are telling you that one day we're not going to have any oil or gas. All these people that are telling you you understand that if we have only electric cars and the government builds all these electric car charging stations, right? They can control you. They can turn it off and then you can no longer travel. All right? Those of you who don't know, my son lives in another state. Me and him have a plan. If a nuclear bomb was to hit, New York, and everything was cut off, all cell phone service, all electricity, all everything, me and him have a meeting time, a place and time. It's that simple. What if I had an electric car and they turned off the electric grid? And I can't drive to meet him 800 miles away. They have control of that. Right now, we have the freedom of travel. We won't have that if they decide. You know, remember what happened in Texas? What happens if the electric grid is freezing up and you can't drive out to save yourself because there's no electricity for your car? You can't heat your house because there's no electricity and oil's been outlawed. It's a dystopian future, and now is our last chance. If Build Back Better hits, name one person you know who is voting for 800,000 more IRS agents. I just looked it up. There are, I forget the billionaires, darn it. But I know there's 20 million millionaires in America. You think they're hiring those 800,000 IRS agents only for those millionaires? Again, let me remind you, Woodrow Wilson said the income tax, the federal income tax, will only be a tax on the rich. It will only be millionaires. And back then, millionaires are what billionaires are today. And that's why I wanted to have that number for you to tell you how many billionaires there are. I can't even guess. I totally forget. And it would only be 8%. Only millionaires will be taxed 8% federal income tax, which is billionaires now. Are only billionaires taxed 8% federal income tax today? No. Everybody, even the poorest Americans or the lower middle class Americans, they're taxed at least 12%. Once they institute these things, they're not going away. Once they hire 800,000 IRS tax agents, they're never laying them off. That's permanent fixture in America, which means every single interaction that anybody's ever had with the IRS, double it, because they're more than doubling the amount of IRS tax agents. Who's voting for that? Is that Building Back Better? But here's the secret. Here, this is Biden's finance official, right? She's a nominee for the banking. And this is how she feels about oil and gas. And guys, the truth is out there. I sound like Mulder on Mulder and Scully on X-Files. The truth is out there. Play tape.
Certain troubled industries and firms that are in transitioning. And here what I'm thinking about is primarily coal industry and oil and gas industry. A lot of the smaller players in that industry are going to probably go bankrupt in short order. At least we want them to go bankrupt if we want to tackle climate change, right?
Guys, this is who Biden wants running our energy. She said it. We want them to go bankrupt. And she's not talking about Shell. She's not talking about the big ones, Texaco. All right, the big six banks, the big six oil companies, they are safe. It's all of the other competition. She said it. All the smaller companies will go bankrupt. We want them to. And you know who's going to get oil when they have total control? Just the federal government for their military. And I say their, not ours. It's not our military anymore. Right now, it's supposed to be the people's military. It won't be. If the military is the only one who has gas, that might as well fall under the Second Amendment. How can we defend ourselves against a military that has gasoline? Forget about the fact that they have machine guns and we're not allowed to have machine guns. But they'll have gasoline and trucks and helicopters. And we'll have a Prius that they turn the electric off. Oh, if you like this girl, here's some more of her. No more private bank accounts. How about that? Play tape.
Imagine what would it be like if instead of being just a public option for deposit banking, this would be actually the full transition. In other words, there will be no more private bank deposit accounts, and all of the deposit accounts will be held directly at the Fed. And there are very interesting implications from that thought experiment. For example, with the much more direct and proactive tools of monetary policy, like helicopter money, which is, considered radical primarily because economists really do not know how to manage the issue of what will happen in the inflationary environment when the central bank needs to contract the supply of money. How is it politically feasible for the central bank to effectively take money away from people's accounts? To imagine,
if this doesn't scare the bejesus out of you, I don't know what will. This isn't some crazy kook at some liberal community college. This is who Joe Biden wants to be running our banking systems. Do you hear what she's saying? I'm telling you, this dystopian conspiracy theory is coming true. Did you hear what she just said? No more bank accounts, no more nothing. They control the currency. And do you understand what that means? If there's inflation, we could just take money out. Like, they control everything. From what's in your wallet to what's in the store to who gets gas to who gets to travel to what medicines you must take. What's going to happen? What happens when they tell you you're not allowed to have freedom of... Guys, they are trampling. They have been trampling over the Constitution and the Bill of Rights for over 100 years now. It started with the socialist heroes, Woodrow Wilson, FDR, Joe Biden. Those are the three presidents that are contributing to the destruction of what we built, of the Constitution, of capitalism, of meritocracy, of a system that can be molded to form a more perfect union. They want it all gone. They want the whole world under their umbrella. And this is what there are economists out there. I can't get them on my show, but this dip, Chris Cuomo, can. Nonetheless, listen to, when they drop the truth on CNN or anything else. They don't even know how to respond to it. Play tape.
The administration's budget and the administration's forecast with this stimulus was that this year we'd have 2% inflation. And it's likely to come in 3 times that. I think they're just not recognizing just how much demand is being created by the tremendous wall of money, 15% of GDP in 1 year that they released last spring. And that, in conjunction with a central bank, the Fed, that keeps the interest rate at zero, that's buying all kinds of bonds and mortgages when in the middle of a housing boom, just sets off a dynamic. Then the thing about inflation is you start chasing your tail. Rising inflation of inputs leads firms to raise their prices. That leads other firms to raise their prices. And the whole thing spirals. It can be broken, but it needs to be broken by some kind of dramatic action. And those kinds of dramatic actions often cause recessions. So I think we're speeding down the road at a really rapid rate. It's kind of a downhill road, and it's not going to be so easy to put the brakes on here. And that's why I'm concerned. And I think that the policymakers in Washington, unfortunately, have almost every month been behind the curve. They said it was transitory. It doesn't look so transitory. They said it was due to a few specific factors. It doesn't look to be a few specific factors.
That's somebody who's unbiasedly looking at the numbers and telling you we're in big trouble. We have one job to do between now and 2024, or actually January 2025. Mitigate the damage. All right? We're going to need to run around and poke holes in the dike. Right? We're going to have to run around the dam and, like an army, we're all going to have to get together and we're all going to have to use our fingers and poke in all the holes in the dam and just hold it up until we get rid of Biden and build back better and 800,000 IRS agents and monitoring your bank accounts and hiring people who want there to be no more personal banking accounts, no more cash, no more gas or oil, bankrupt. So that way the only people getting it is the government. All right, but let me tell you, it's not really an inflation crisis. It's Republicans using it as a political cudgel. Play tape.
1 in 4 Americans, according to a new survey, have experienced some kind of loss of income as a result of higher prices. The president has expressed concern about this. I know that you are working on different fronts to address this, but I mean, how urgent is it, and how, is there any sort of specific concern that this is going to affect not just political outcomes, but just the overall economy?
Sure. Well, Andrea, first let me say that, a lot of the talk about inflation, I'm not saying from you, but in general out there, has been, it's become a political cudgel, and it shouldn't be.
So what?
It's become a political You're right. It's imaginary. It's us idiots in the basement running a podcast pretending that inflation is going to get you. I'm telling you, this is the most alarming episode ever. It's probably going to be my least rated episode ever, too. Because who wants to talk about, I'm going to have to come up, I'm going to write something. I need a title for the video. Can you help me come up with one? How about salacious or sexy or awe-inspiring? What should the name of the episode be? Because I can't write, the economy is bringing about dystopian times. Or maybe I should name it that. That sounds pretty dark and dreary. Okay. The economy is bringing us towards dystopian times. The economy is bringing us to dystopian times. All right, I got it. You were with me during that brainstorming session. Good meeting. Good talk. It's not a political cudgel. Although it is affecting Republican states much worse than it's affecting Democrat blue states. And that's mostly because what we're doing is we're seeing middle America, flyover America, Republican America, heartland America is simply catching up their prices to New York and San Francisco. So New York and San Francisco are going up a little bit. Say you're talking about gas, right? Gas in California was $3.50. So now it's up to $4.50. They only went up $1, and they only went up less than 30%. But in Oklahoma, gas was $1.75. And now it went up to $3. So it went up $1.25, which is a little bit more than it went up in California. Plus, it went up a much bigger percentage, greater than 75% increase. And that's why the inflation is hitting heartland America, Republican America much worse, which is why all the people, if you live in San Francisco and you Uber everywhere, or you live in a big city and you ride a bike, or you have your luncheonette downstairs from your apartment and your grocery store across the street, you don't own a car. You don't care about gas prices. When you do ballot harvesting, it's easier to do it in the city than it is in the country. I mean, these things, the Democrats are trying to stack the playing field against us in order to start this dystopian fantasy. If you're a Democrat, please help us destroy the dystopian fantasy, and then you could go back to being a Democrat and we could argue about tax rates, okay? We could argue about if abortion should be from conception or to 9 months or somewhere in between. We could argue about military involvement overseas, but we shouldn't be talking about changing the American way of life. Please, tell a friend, subscribe, stay tuned, all right? Earlier, we just released this great interview with Mark Robertson. Any political candidates? April Becker? Anybody else? Please, also, I need to hear from, I talked to Tony Lane. We talked to Carolina Serrano. We need Sam Peters to come in. And then anybody else running, whether it's for school board or governor. We want you down here on the Johnny Bruce Show so we can get to know you, all right? We're on Rumble, the Johnny Bruce Show with no spaces. Apple Podcast, Spotify, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Anchor, Facebook. Just look up the Johnny Bruce Show. Common Sense Nevada, which is the Village Square. You could even post there. Let us know about your business. Tell us you love the country, and maybe more people will support your business, right? And then we also have the new CCSD Board of Trustees 2022-2024, so we can take over this school board with people who care mostly about our children getting a classical education. And any candidates or any articles I need to look at, please email me, thejohnnybrewshow@gmail.com. And any fans, comments, any ideas for shows, anything, text us, 702-501-5304. All right? And don't forget, our number one sponsor, the place where you need to bring your children if you want that classical education, that mathematical foundation that will make them love school. Play tape. Because at Infinity, the Math Institute, you don't get more math problems. You get solutions. 702-768-1777, themathinstitute.com, Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. Also, lots of lessons on YouTube. They keep building, getting lots of views. Just check it out. We don't have every single mathematical subject from 5 years old to 50 years old covered yet, but we do have a lot. So please, check it out and see if your subject is listed there. All right? Thank you so much. Subscribe, tell a friend. Let me know what you think. Tell me, am I crazy? Am I a conspiracy theorist? Am I a crazy right-wing nut job thinking that we're going to have this dystopian, crazy, no cash bank accounts, no gas, government owns everything? Or do we need to stand up now? Let me know. My name is John Brookhagen. Thanks for watching The Johnny Bruce Show.